Alright, this video is on the part of your homework assignment that says classifying matter. So in the top part you have a few things that you need to classify as either elements, compounds, heterogeneous mixtures, or homogeneous mixtures, or none of them. And then in the bottom half you have these diagrams that you need to match with the description of the picture. So before we get into the top part where we're classifying, I just want to review the flowchart from your notes that will help us determine which of the four categories the matter will fit into. So this flowchart is helpful because you can go through this for each of the items. First, asking yourself, can it be separated by physical means, meaning you could just, filter it through something or just separate them out, like by picking out different parts of it. If you can easily separate it by somehow physically separating it, it's just a mixture of things. And there are two different types of mixtures. If the composition is not uniform, meaning that you can see different parts of the mixture, so like there's something on the top and something on the bottom, and you can see differences visually, then it's a heterogeneous mixture. Like granite, you can see different specks of all the different minerals in there. Wood or blood, like blood can be spun and then the heavier stuff will sink to the bottom. Okay, and then you have homogeneous mixtures are when the composition is uniform, meaning you can't tell any difference within the mixture. So something like air, where everything is evenly distributed, sugar and water, the sugar dissolves and you can't see where the sugar is, or stainless steel, where it looks the same throughout. If you can't separate the matter by physical means, you have what's called a pure substance, and there are also two types of pure substances. If you can't break it down by even chemical means, it means you have an element, which is, the smallest building block. So that would be things from the periodic table: gold, aluminum, oxygen, chlorine. If you could separate it chemically, it means you have a compound, which is just a combination of two or more elements, right? So water, which is H2O, sodium chloride, NaCl, or sucrose, okay? So let's think about that when we look at these things. We'll just do a few of them. We'll do like part of the first row, and then I'll jump around to give you an example of each. There are also a lot of clues that you can use in this worksheet. So the first one being, so for diamond, if you can assign a chemical formula to these, or sometimes they give you a chemical formula. If it has a chemical formula, that's a huge hint that you have a pure substance, either an element or a compound. And from there, it should be easy what's an element and what's a compound, right? Because an element is just one thing from the periodic table. A compound is going to be two or more things from the periodic table. So this first one, for example, the fact you might not know that diamond is just carbon, but it's telling you it's carbon. Diamond is purely made up of carbon. So that tells you that diamond is just an element, okay? Because that's all it's made of is just carbon. So if it's an element, we'll put an E. That's what the explanation says up here. The next one, sugar. So again, I see a chemical formula, but this time it has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So it wouldn't be an element, right? Because that would just be a single element. It has multiple elements, so that's going to be a compound. So I'd put C for sugar. It's a combination of elements, chemically bonded together. All right, and then milk, okay? So milk, I can't assign a chemical formula, so I'm pretty sure it's not an element or a compound, so it's probably one of these mixtures. And so between heterogeneous and homogeneous, I can just ask myself, does the composition look uniform? So when I imagine a glass of milk, right, it looks the same throughout. I don't think any part of the milk, as long as it's good and it hasn't gone bad, right, where it's like chunky, but milk is the same throughout, so it has a homogeneous composition. So this would be a homogeneous mixture. Okay, and why don't we do a couple of the weirder ones? Like pizza, we did this as an example in class, right? Pizza, definitely not a pure substance. It is a mixture. So then we just think, what does pizza look like? Does it look the same throughout, or are there different things that we can see visually? Well, there are definitely different parts of the pizza. There's like the crust, there's the sauce, there's the cheese, there's the toppings. So this is going to be a heterogeneous mixture for pizza. So a lot of the really weird ones that you see on your homework, you're like, oh, I have no idea. If it's a really strange thing, it's probably heterogeneous. Just think about, can you see different parts to it? And then a couple others that are weird are the ones that won't fit into any category. So if it's not any of them, you'll just put an X. So an example of this is like electricity. Electricity is not matter, and this is classifying matter. So this is a case where you would put an X. Okay, so that's the top part. The bottom part of the assignment is where you're using these diagrams and matching them with the descriptions. So each of these diagrams is showing you some picture of elements or compounds. So you can recognize compounds because they are a combination of these circles, these either black or white circles. So these show compounds. Those are compounds. And then the elements would be the single ones. So like those are elements, and there's some elements here. Okay, so for example, the first one maybe I'll do the first two. We'll do pure element. Only one type of atom is present. So I know it's not these because these have compounds. This one also has a compound. These two have elements, I see. So a pure element, there's only going to be one type. So it would be this one, C. Because this one has the white circles, but it also has black circles, so that's two different types of elements. So that would actually go with number 2, mixture of 2 elements, 2 types of uncombined atoms. So this one would be E. Okay, so you should be able to go through and match up the rest of those pictures. All right, so that's that part of the assignment. Good luck.